All right, guys. So I know we've been the time now. We're trying to do the best we can to stick with it. So I'm going to talk to you guys today about being a veteran advocate. And part of the way I'm going to do that, those of you who don't know me, I'm going to share a little bit of my story and how I got into lending, and I do so because I know, again, just a show of hands, show me the veterans in the room again. So veterans, it's easy, I think, for us to be super passionate about caring for our fellow veterans, and that's part of my story and how I got into lending and finding my niche and doing VA loans. 90% of what I do is VA loans. I think even among other people who do VA loans, that's a pretty high percentage, And it's been like that for a number of years. It came sort of naturally out of the fact that everybody I know was in the military, but where I really dove deep into this niche of serving my fellow veterans really has to do with an identity crisis. So I'm going to get into that and just sharing my story so you can understand that. Listen, these stories and the things I'm going to share, these come from a place of humility. There's veterans in this room who have served and have done as much or more than I've ever done. And just because you aren't a veteran doesn't mean that you don't care. So, when I'm sharing these stories, if you're not a veteran, that doesn't mean that you don't care. I just, you know where I'm coming from on that? You guys with me with that? Like, this is just, I'm sharing my piece of it. Take of it what you will. Hopefully it inspires you to care more if you don't, or maybe it puts a little light, in your fire to go home and to reach out and connect with and help more veterans. I know for me, when I'm helping another veteran, that's what keeps me going in this business. This business to me would be death by 1,000 paper cuts. Those of you who just like doing loans are sick. I mean, it's just, I can do this business because when I do this, there's a veteran behind it, it's like, look out, because here comes my sword and my shield. I mean, I will throat punch you if you screw a veteran. Did I just F-bomb? Yes. Yes. That's the only one for the day. All right, so we're going to talk about that. Now, partway through this, I'm going to bring Derek Evans up. Derek, raise your hand. Derek is the director of marketing for our company. And the reason I'm going to bring him in to talk, and he and I are just going to wrap on some ideas, is because before I made the move to United Military Lending to be the vice president, I was at Benchmark Mortgage for 8 years. Great company, but this for me was a unique opportunity to align where I got to take on a role as a decision maker in the company, where I could really make a difference in setting policy so that I could ensure that veterans were getting the very best of the VA loan. And that is not to say that that wasn't happening at my previous company or doesn't happen at your companies, but for me, being super passionate about it, I'm in a position at this company where I can be that decision maker. I set policy, I set VA policy here. Derek and I were working together in a marketing role. Derek runs a studio and a show here in San Diego called Smarter San Diego, and he helped me build a lot of my branding and video production and marketing pieces. And so when I talked about the veteran advocate marketing pieces, that's where I'm going to bring Derek up, because he's the one who helped me build all of that. Now he's the director of marketing for our company. That definitely played a role in me making the move that I made. Because he and I are just so aligned on serving veterans, and he gets it with that culture and how we speak to veterans. So that's why I'm going to bring him up. So that's Derek standing over there.
I also got the F-bomb on video earlier.
Oh, that's great. All right. So veteran advocate, that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to start by sharing some stories. So here's the mission for today. And every time I share any of the stories that I do, I just want you to know this is where I'm coming from. This is a quote that I love. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself. And that's where I say, listen, I know there's more mortgage experience in the room than I've got. There's people who have experiences that many of us will never have. Always remain open to what others have to share and you can learn from. So I know I can learn from you, and hopefully you can learn something from me. That's where, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And I hope that's how you see this event as. We are all here to sharpen one another, to hone each other, to make each other better. The competition is not in this room, it's all out there. We all go back, some of us, to this same marketplace that I'm in, other marketplaces across the country. But man, these are the good guys. I said that today. These are the white hats. These are the people who are going back to the marketplaces and helping veterans. And we know there are people out there who are not veteran advocates, right? We know there are people out there who are there to take advantage of, to line their pockets at the expense of others. There's nothing wrong with making money. There's nothing wrong with being financially well-to-do in the service of others, right? I think that's a distinction. So anyway, I hope you all see this as again, a great networking opportunity to sharpen each other and become better. You know, here's the law of the harvest. The law of the harvest that is wrong. The law of the harvest is to reap more. Oh yes, to reap more than you sow. Sow an act and reap a habit. Sow a habit and you reap character. Sow a character and you reap destiny. Principles don't change, but tactics do. And so that's what we're gonna talk about. So let's talk about my background, my transition, and the disaster that was. So I was in the SEAL teams my entire life. I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. This is not about me, but just a little bit so you know my background. I wanted to be a SEAL my entire life. I went to ROTC. I went to Vanderbilt University. So I got commissioned as an officer in 2001, and so Navy guy. And then as soon as I got commissioned, I got stationed out here in Coronado and went through SEAL training. Luckily, made it through, and then got to do what was my dream job, which was to become a Navy SEAL and do all that cool stuff. And really, it was out of wanting to serve others. I wanted to be able to go into harm's way and protect people that couldn't protect themselves, and I had a great time doing it. While I was on active duty, I met my wife, had 2 kids, born on 2 back-to-back deployments. So again, just sort of living that life of knowing when you're not there for Christmas, not there for New Year's, not there for either of my son's births. My wife at the time going through all that. So I did 2 back-to-back deployments to Iraq in 2006, and then when I left, and then had to do another deployment. And then after 2 kids, it just kind of got. And this is just like my family story. Like it got to a point where it was weighing a heavy toll on the family. And then at the time, during my last deployment, I was in Iraq in an area called Ramadi in 2006, which at the time was the most dangerous place in the war on terror. And I was part of SEAL Team 3, Task Unit Bruiser, which is recognized as the most highly decorated SEAL unit in the history of the SEAL teams. My task unit, which was representative of a little over 32 SEALs in our unit, accounted for over 360 confirmed kills. Over 14, well, killing enemy is how you win wars, but that takes its toll in many different places. But among the 32 SEALs, we had 14 guys receive Purple Hearts. There were 4 Silver Star recipients and 1 Medal of Honor. My hero, I'll talk about Michael Mansour, got the Medal of Honor. He jumped on a grenade and saved 2 other guys in my platoon. Mark Lee was in my platoon. He was the first SEAL killed in Iraq. He died on August 2nd, 2006. We were in a heavy gunfight. He ran to the top rooftop of a building to engage the enemy, and right as he ran to the top of the stairs and up onto the rooftop, he was shot in the face and killed instantly. Many guys hurt, 2 guys killed. Heroic, amazing heroics. I consider myself lucky that I was just even a part of an amazing organization at the time. So that's kind of it. Now the tough part though, all that's going on. I'm not there for either of my son's births. Here's a picture of Ramadi in 06, just to kind of give you an idea and kind of set that stage. Baghdad, Ramadi out to the west in what's called Anbar province. And this is what Ramadi looked like in 2006. Camp Ramadi, green zone area, somewhat permissive. That's where our base was. These yellow areas were areas that we were operating out of. The green areas represents where our bases were. And this red area over here, when we got to Ramadi, we were told, don't go to this area. This is what is referred to as denied battle space. It's not even permissive or it's like you can't go there. If you go there, there is no QRF, quick reaction force. There's no support. So naturally, that's where we decided to go, and that became the mission over the next 6 months of our deployment to take that part of the city back, and ultimately that is what happened. Mark Lee, again, like I told you, was killed on August 2nd, 2006. Ryan Jobe, who was part of that operation, was also shot in the face in that operation. He lost vision in both of his eyes. Chris Kyle, who you may have read about his book, American Sniper, was in my task unit. He carried Ryan Jobe off of the roof. And then, unfortunately, a couple of years later, Ryan Jobe later died. He had to go he died from complications of the surgery, trying to help relieve some pressure in his brain, and he died on the operating table. And then this is my hero, Michael Mansour. He was killed September of 2006, and again, an operation that was the last operation before we were to come home from Iraq. In fact, we were slated to come home, and those of you who are in the military know, like, you know, there's like, some call it a RIP TOA, some call it, you know, an ADVON or whatever. So you have the incoming team relieving us, and then we kind of do what's called like a left seat, right seat. We're kind of showing them the lay of the land. And then there's also the process then of bringing the rest of the team home. So we were basically done. Jim Potts, what's up, man? We were basically done. It was like our last deployment, our last operation. I had just gone home 2 weeks later. My second son had been born. I missed that. They're like, hey, go home, check on your wife and kid. The deployment's basically over. Start doing the logistics to bring everybody back. So I was not on this operation, but I was on the secure chat program, talking to the guys before they went out the night before. Cool, have a great mission. I'll literally see you guys in 3 days, okay? Went home, got the call in the middle of the night, need to come into the base. What's going on? Just come in here. So, I knew my guys were out, and I knew somebody had been killed, but I didn't know who. So I got home, drove into the base, got the word, found out that Mike had been killed and how he'd been killed. And so then begins the process of trying to figure out, okay, well, now we need to do next of kin notification, right? We've got to notify the family. And in this 24/7 news cycle that we're in, the news media has oftentimes done a really bad job of announcing, you know, U.S. deaths before we're even able to notify family members. So it literally becomes, and they've gotten better over the years, but it becomes a race for us to do the right thing as the military unit to get there and notify them in the proper way before they find out from some third-party source, right? So Michael Mansour was from Orange County. We began to put a team together, sent, you know, a chaplain, a commander up there to notify the family. I'm like, well, this is my guy, I'm going. So got our blues on, we drove up to Orange County. I mean, I'll never forget it. Like it was yesterday. It was a beautiful, sunny Southern California day. Unlike today, thanks for bringing the crappy weather. But it was a beautiful day. I mean, drove into this small kind of neighborhood. Every lawn is just perfectly manicured, like 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes. Every house has got an American flag on it. I mean, it is like as apple pie as you can imagine. And I never forget thinking, gosh, you know, this is crazy. I mean, I am about to give the worst possible news to a family that can be imagined. And now also, I am feeling extremely guilty that my unit and my guys are overseas and I'm not there with them. So these are the tough things that military guys go through. So I mean, we went up, we knocked on the door, and we knocked, and then nobody came to the door for a few minutes. Eventually, Sally Mansour, Michael's mother, came to the door. I later found out that the reason why it took a while is because she had looked outside and seen us all standing there in our blues and feared the worst, and so she, you know, was really hesitant, and so she came to the door and she cracked the door open. Yes, can I help you? The commander who was there said, Sally Mansour. Yes, she goes, we have some news about your son. So she, of course, went back to the team, and so she, you know, we came in and let her know that Michael had been killed. And shortly thereafter, Michael's sister Sarah came home, and you know, I mean, she was just wailing and screaming, crying, going, "No, how can this be? I just got an email from him yesterday saying, you know, my bags are packed. Everything's. I'll see you tomorrow." Like, she's like, "How is this even possible?" You know. So this is what Michael did. Now I'm going to just read this to you. So, because this is perhaps says it better than anything else as to what he did and how he died. This is the Medal of Honor citation presented by the President of the United States. Master at Arms, Second Class, Michael Anthony Mansour, and for service set forth in the following. For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty, while serving as automatic weapons gunner for Naval Special Warfare Task Group Arabian Peninsula in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom on 29 September 2006. As a member of a combined SEAL and Iraqi sniper overwatch element tasked with providing early warning and standoff protection from a rooftop in an insurgent-held sector of Al-Ramadi, Iraq, Heavy Officer Mansour distinguished himself by his exceptional bravery in the face of grave danger. In the early morning, insurgents prepared to execute a coordinated attack by reconnoitering the area around the element's position. The element snipers thwarted the enemy's initial attempt by eliminating 2 insurgents. The enemy continued to assault the element, engaging them with rocket-propelled grenade and small arms fire. As the enemy activity increased, Petty Officer Mansour took position with his machine gun between two teammates on an outcropping of the roof. While the SEALs vigilantly watched for enemy activity, an insurgent threw a hand grenade from an unseen location, which bounced off Petty Officer Mansour's chest and landed in front of him. Although only he could have escaped the blast, Petty Officer Mansour chose instead to protect his teammates. Instantly and without regard for his own safety, he threw himself onto the grenade to absorb the force of the explosion with his body, saving the lives of his two teammates. By his undaunted courage, fighting spirit, and unwavering devotion to duty in the face of certain death, Petty Officer Mansour gallantly gave his life for his country, thereby reflecting great credit upon himself and upholding the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. So, Michael, you know, I mean, this is just like the most heroic kind of thing you can ever imagine, right? And there are many men who have done incredible things like this, but luckily have come home, but not without the scars and, you know, the nightmares of battle and things like that. And these are the kind of men, these are the kinds of families and women that we get to serve when we do a VA loan. And that's why I share this story with you. I want you to remember these things that, you know, we can get so caught up in the daily grind of collecting paperwork conditions and closing a loan and a funding and, you know, getting mad at a closer or a title escrow or a person like that. We got to remember who's on the other side of this stuff. And this is the stuff that fires me up. This is why I do VA loans. This is why when I hear that an agent or a seller won't accept it because it's a VA loan, that I want to literally throat punch somebody. Now what I've learned is that in order to be effective, I need to hone and sharpen my skills. What I've learned is that real strength is often quiet. Real strength is often humble. You can get things done with a lot of piss and vinegar, and that can work. And we can be boisterous, we can yell and we can scream, and that will work. It can. But what I've learned is that real strength is quiet and it's humble. And that if I can polish my skills, if I can become more articulate, I can kick somebody's ass real professionally. You know what I mean? I can speak in such a way that I can affect real change. That I can maybe inspire somebody to change their mindset, to change their thought process, to explain them why what I am saying is the right way to do business, or why they should accept this veteran's offer, and win them over to my side. Piss and vinegar, I may win by steamrolling them, by coercing them, but if I can win them to my side, now I've created an advocate. Someone who sees it like I see it, who sees the vision the way I see it. Now I've just duplicated myself. Maybe I've just duplicated 50 people here. I know a lot of you have that vision already, so I'm not taking credit for you, but I just mean, right? But take this kind of thing, right? Let this fire you up to go back out there and inspire the other people in your office, to inspire those people in your marketplace. Real estate agents, loan officers. Guys, none of you are my competition. All of you are my allies, because together we can go help those veterans. That to me is what it means to be a veteran advocate. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, say aye. Aye. If that makes sense, say roger that. Roger that. All right. Roger that. I'm going to tell you a cool story about Roger that. Who's heard the Roger that story before?
I love this story.
All right.
Roger that.
So, you guys want to hear a cool story?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Christmas ham.
Oh, that one. When we're going through SEAL training, one of the most intense blocks of training is close quarters combat, what is also now in the SEAL teams called MOUT, Military Operations in Urban Terrain. That involves both CQC, that's like that cool stuff they put in the movies where the guy blasts into the house, throws a crash bang, shoots the guys in the forehead, and all that type of thing, you know? We get to do that for about this much time. The rest of it's planning and boring stuff. The movies make it look like we do that all the time. I wish we did more of it, but anyway, that's like the tip. That is the pointy end of the tip of the spear, right? I mean, that is when we are putting warheads on foreheads. That is where the rubber meets the road, where it's me against that bad guy, and it's my skill against his to kill him before he kills me, and to also identify the right threat see what is truly a threat and what's not. What's the hostage? Can I take this guy without killing him? Because it'd be easy if it was just to go in and kill everybody, we'd just drop a bomb on the building, right? The reason why we go in and we do CQC is so that we only kill the people that we have to kill, and we capture the rest, because those people can then turn into intelligence sources, right? And we can avoid collateral damage. If we didn't have to do any of that, we'd just drop a bomb on the building, right? That's why we dropped a bomb on the building that Zarqawi was in. We decided it wasn't worth saving those lives. He was such an important target, some people are going to have to die. That was a decision made way above my pay grade. But most of the time, that's what the job of soldiers and Marines is to go in and to kill the enemy while not killing everybody else. So CQC, that's the most intense block of training. Not only do you have to be able to identify a threat, your shooting skills, everything has to be on point. When we do this shooting live ammunition in training, inches away from one another, moving, crossing in front, etc., etc. Fields of fire, safety is paramount. And this is where we identified the weak links in the platoons, okay? Just because a guy makes it through SEAL training and they have a trident on their chest doesn't mean that they become a good SEAL operator, and doesn't mean that they're a good team guy. That's another topic, but there's a difference between being a SEAL and being a team guy. Team guy means you're a team player. You understand the culture, right? You're my brother, not just a person. Not just a person on the team with a trident. CQC is where we flesh that out. CQC is where we figure out who the real team guys are, who the guys we want to be on our team, that we feel safe going into combat with, knowing this guy's got my back and I can go balls to the wall down this hallway, run right past that door knowing, because I got to, that my guy behind me is picking that door up right behind me and I don't even need to look at it. Okay? So CQC is where we separate the men from the boys. It is the most intense block of training. On my last workup, on my last deployment, when we went to CQC, we do this in a place called Shaw's in Mississippi. We had a chief from another platoon, 16 years in the teams, get fired from the platoon for his inability to lead and safely conduct training in this. And so it doesn't matter if you're a new guy, it doesn't matter if you've been in multiple deployments, if you aren't cutting the mustard, you're getting cut from the team, okay? I'm trying to just tell you how intense this block of training is. It is so intense, it is meant to create a level of anxiety to simulate as much as possible the stress of combat, to see who's going to make a mistake under pressure. Now luckily, although it can sometimes feel that way, you don't have to worry about that kind of pressure when doing it alone, right? Like nobody's going to kill you, you're not going to die. And if you shoot, you're not going to kill the wrong person. But these are life and death type of situations. So we put pressure on guys to see who's going to make a mistake under pressure. And some guys end up folding on that, or they make those mistakes. And look, guys can make mistakes. You get 1 or 2 safety violations, though, you're going to a review board, and that's what happened to that chief, 16 years in, got canned from the platoon. So when we started to go through that block of training, you also have to put on you also have to be very humble. You can have guys who've done 2, 3 deployments, combat experience, done this block of training several times yourself. You go into this place and all of the walls are made out of it's HY80. It's this really high-grade steel that they use on submarines that bullets don't pierce through and stuff like that. So when you're in other rooms shooting at these targets, if a guy misses a target, it doesn't go zipping through the wall and kill the guy on the other side. And then there's these things called catwalks, and the instructors are all on these walkways up above, looking down onto so there's no roofs, right? So imagine you got a house with no roof or no ceiling, right? And then the instructors walk on these catwalks up above it. And they're looking to see that when you come into the room, that you don't over-penetrate into the room, that if you're moving, your gun is on safe, and it only comes off safe to take a shot, and then you come off safe, and you're back on safe, etc. And so there's an incredible amount of scrutiny, whistles blowing, you're doing tire runs and hill runs and push-ups and all this stuff if you mess up. And so even guys who are seasoned are put under a lot of pressure. And then if you know what you're doing, and you've been doing this for a while, but all of a sudden an instructor tells you, hey, you over-penetrated that room, it would be really easy to be like, no, I didn't. Dude, I've got more platoons than you. Right? I know what I'm doing. Right? It'd be real easy to get into an argument, and it happens sometimes. So when we start going through this block of training, Jocko Willink, anybody heard of Jocko? Right? Yeah. Jocko's written a book called Extreme Ownership. He was our task unit commander. Jocko is one of my closest friends. He lives here in San Diego. And you can check out his podcast, a pretty cool podcast I did with him. It's podcast number 42. I actually talk a little bit more about Mike's story and my transition and things like that. But Jocko said, listen, when we go through this block of training, nobody is to talk back to the instructors. If the instructor gives you corrective action or corrective measure, your response is just, roger that. So we start going through this training. And if you're a new guy, you definitely get a little bit more attention. And Michael Mansour was getting a lot of extra attention because he was a new guy and they just kept hammering him. And he wasn't really doing anything wrong, but they were just trying to put more pressure on him to see if he was going to have what it took. And every time they would tell him something, even if he really had done it pretty good, they would give him all this, and he would just say, roger that. All right, roger that, roger that. Well, finally, after like a couple days of this, the guy who's the senior enlisted advisor of the SEA, who's in charge of the CQC block of training, he pulled Jocko aside and he goes, hey, what's up with this Mansour kid? He's like, what do you mean? He goes, every time I get in his face, all he says to me is, roger that. Is he with me right now? What is his deal, right? Jocko was just like, roger that. So roger that became our saying. And here's what roger that means. Roger that means multiple things all at once. Roger that, first of all, acknowledges that you've heard what another person has said. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'm talking to somebody, I'm trying to explain something, and I'm like, are the lights on in there? Give me some kind of an acknowledgement that you understand what I'm saying, you know? So if you just sort of say, oh, roger that, you're like, okay, you heard me. Roger that is said the right way is, you know, can be an affirmative, like, I got it. Hey, after this, we're going to get lunch and we're going to meet back here at 1. Roger that, a question, and your response is, roger that, affirmative, right? So roger that is a question, roger that is an answer, and roger that has this degree of humility to it. It means I heard you, I understand you, and I got it. I got it from here. So when we would talk amongst the platoon and orders were handed out or things to go and be done, and we'd say, okay, here's the mission, we're going to go do this, and we'll be back here at 1300. Roger that, roger that, roger that. So everything is roger that. It's a very humble acknowledgement and an affirmative that implies that you're going to take the initiative and get the job done. So it means all of those things all wrapped into one. So Mikey's got a kind of cool roger that story. And then we told that, actually, President Bush told that story at Michael Mansour's Medal of Honor ceremony, so it's kind of cool.